There's a very specific moment that pops up in almost every spy movie. The hero approaches a heavy door, leans in, and stares into a small device. A thin beam of light sweeps across their eye, followed by a soft, satisfying beep. The door swings open. It always feels like magic, or at least like some ultra-advanced tech that belongs in a top-secret lab, not in our everyday lives. But the truth is, retina scanners are very real, and how they actually work is both simpler and much stranger than what the movies show us. Simpler, because the core idea is almost elegant in its directness. Stranger, because when that device looks into your eye, it's reading something most people never even think about. The retina is a thin layer of tissue sitting at the very back of your eyeball. It's where light hits after passing through your lens, and where visual information is turned into signals for your brain to process. But it does something else too, something that has absolutely nothing to do with your vision. It houses an incredibly dense and complex network of blood vessels. These tiny vessels branch out in patterns so intricate and unique that no two people on Earth share the same arrangement, not even identical twins, not even a mother and her child. Every single human being who has ever lived has carried a retinal blood vessel pattern that is uniquely their own. This is exactly what a retina scanner is reading. It's not looking at the color of your eyes. It's not checking the shape of your pupil. It's mapping the blood vessels hidden behind your eyeball. The way it does this is actually quite simple in principle. The scanner shoots a low-intensity beam of infrared light directly into the eye. We use infrared because it's invisible to the human eye, and blood vessels absorb it differently than the tissue around them. When that beam hits the retina, those blood vessels soak up more light than the rest of the eye. The scanner picks up this pattern of absorption and reflection, maps it out, and turns it into a digital template. This template is basically a high-tech map of your vessel network, condensed into a string of data points. When you use the scanner to prove who you are, the process repeats. A new scan is taken, a new map is created, and the system compares it to the one it has on file. If the patterns match up, you're in. If they don't, you're staying outside. The whole thing takes just a few seconds, and the margin for error? It's incredibly tiny. Retina scanning is considered one of the most accurate biometric tools in existence. The odds of two people having retinal patterns similar enough to fool a good scanner are practically astronomical. It's way more reliable than fingerprints, which can get smudged or worn down. It's more precise than facial recognition, which can be thrown off by lighting, aging, or even a high-quality photo. Part of what makes the retina such a reliable ID card is where it's located. Tucked away inside the eye, behind the cornea and lens, it's protected from the outside world in a way your face or fingers never are. It doesn't wear out from daily use. It doesn't change as you age the way other biometric markers do. Unless there's a severe disease or injury, the retinal pattern you have as a kid is basically the same one you'll have decades later. There's also a liveness factor that makes retina scanning really hard to fake. Since the scanner reads blood vessels, it's looking for something that only exists in a living, functioning eye. You can't just show the scanner a photo of a retina. You can't use a prosthetic. Those blood vessels need to be right there, active and real. This makes it much more resistant to the spoofing tricks that can sometimes trip up facial or fingerprint systems. So why isn't this technology everywhere? If retina scanning is this accurate and hard to fake, why aren't we using it to unlock our phones or our front doors? It really comes down to a few practical hurdles. First, there's the convenience factor. To get a clean scan, you have to get very close to the device, stand perfectly still, and stare right into a beam of light. It's not painful, and it's perfectly safe, but it's not exactly a natural feeling. It requires a level of cooperation and stillness that fingerprint or face unlocks just don't ask for. Most people find it a bit intrusive, especially if they had to do it dozens of times every day. Then there's the cost. The hardware needed to emit and read an infrared beam with that much precision is expensive to make, much more so than a simple camera or a fingerprint sensor. For everyday gadgets where price and ease of use are everything, this is a major deal breaker. Finally, there's the speed. Retina scanning is accurate, but it's not instant in the way we expect our tech to be today. That fraction of a second might seem small, but when you unlock your phone hundreds of times a day, those tiny delays start to shape how the technology feels. This is why retina scanning has mostly stayed in high-security environments. Think military bases, top-tier research labs, data centers, and high-level border control. Places where being 100% sure is way more important than being fast or cheap. Places where leaning into a scanner for a second is a small price to pay for a level of security that almost nothing else can touch. So, next time you see this in a movie, you'll know it's not just sci-fi fluff. Someone really looked at the back of an eyeball and realized, this pattern is unlike anything else in the world. Let's use it. And they were absolutely right. If you're curious about the hidden tech working quietly behind the scenes of our world, that's exactly why Most Questions is here. Subscribe, and let's keep taking a closer look together.